This episode is brought to you by Lumina Growth Lab. At Lumina, we help professional learning and development companies who are struggling with predictable lead flow, breaking out beyond their network, and a sniper approach to attracting the ideal clients so they can have a smoother sales process, finally have scalability, and ultimately take their business to the next level. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because business has fundamentally changed since the pandemic and now the disruption of AI. But with the right strategy and support, they're able to confidently add new channels of lead generation, leading to a packed pipeline that creates sustainable revenue and year-over-year growth for cheaper than ever before because of the use of AI technologies. If that sounds like you or someone you know, connect with me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about unlocking your business's potential. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix. I'm your host, Lysanne Murphy, and today I am joined by the incredible and talented Jon Bassford. Jon, thank you so much for coming and joining us on the Marketing Matrix today.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, I am really excited to have this guy. I hope for those of you that are listening to podcast audio, I think you'll still be able to pick up this guy's enthusiasm and jovialness. But if not, go to YouTube because he's all smiles. He is so excited about the work that he's doing and he's passionate about it and he's talented. So I want to take a moment to introduce this powerhouse man, and then we're going to rock our conversation today. And I'm really excited for you to be a part of it. So Jon Bassford, guys, check this out. He's a JD. He's an MBA. He's a CAE. I mean, how many more letters can you even fit at the end? At the time of this recording, there's so many letters that on the bottom of his thumbnail, it just says ... for me. He's got it all, guys. He's a visionary entrepreneur and operations professional who thrives on creating and driving change through a passion for curiosity. Curiosity has driven every aspect of Jon's life and brings this curiosity to helping organizations and individuals innovate, change, and grow. Through curiosity, Jon helps businesses and organizations trust the process to drive efficiency and results. All right, guys. So I don't know about you, but operations is something that's I know that it's so important, but my brain just doesn't think that way. So whenever I meet someone like Jon, I'm like, will you please be my friend? I need you. And there's probably a lot of you listening today that are in the same boat. So anyway, Jon, thanks again for coming. Really excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so for those that aren't as familiar with your background, why operations? I want to know, how did you play as a child? That's one of my first questions. And how did operations become your thing?
I would say, looking back at me as a child, probably the thing that resonates with people the most is I was that kid who was constantly told as a child, junior high, high school, you're going to be a great lawyer or you should go to law school. That's what I heard my entire life. I just, kind of had that analytical, argumentative nature. Again, I also just was inquisitive, right? I was a kid at family reunions that would play with the other kids, but also would sit around with the adults and learn about what they did for a living and their travels and that sort of thing. And just always had this kind of inquisitive mind that went along with it. And so I would say more that is kind of really how I was viewed when I was younger growing up. Fast forward, I mean, obviously going to law school, I did not plan on a career in operations. I certainly did not intend for my career to begin as a association professional either. But after law school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure I wanted to practice law. And so I ended up falling into, it's not falling into, that's a bad word, but ended up working for a legal organization. I was a member in law school. And through that, I started in the kind of the membership, chapter relations, volunteer management, events side of the house, but began taking on operational roles, budget oversight, governance, HR, et cetera, and realized, too, that I had a knack for association work and also that I really enjoyed the problem solving analytical nature of operations. I think most people look at operations as this ticky tacky, follow these strict lines to get things done. Where I've always looked at operations as how do we get creative? How do we create the most efficient and effective process we can to achieve the results as quickly and efficiently as possible?
I love that. Well, and one of the things that it makes sense, but is counterintuitive at the same time to me is mixing operations with curiosity. Cause I think traditionally, kind of like you mentioned, operations is very just very straightforward line by line. But for operations to get better, like you always have to be curious, or to like create the right system in a place. Like you have to be curious about like, what is the right way to do this? Where's the best place to implement a human versus technology? If it's breaking down, why? Is it a person following a process issue, or is it the system itself? Like, so there has to be a lot of curiosity when it comes to it. And so I'm really grateful you bring that to the light, because it's really important.
Yeah, a big piece of being a curious leader and having curiosity is knowing how to ask the right questions to gather the right information. And whether you're launching a CRM or you're launching payroll, you're launching some kind of software system process, whatever it may be, you got to know how to ask the right questions and dive deep and really get at the heart of what you want to the information you need to make an informed decision. And that's another piece of the curiosity that really plays out in an operational role.
I love that. Okay, so like, how do you define curiosity? Like, is it just as simple as like asking the right questions? Is there something more to it? Like, what is curiosity in terms of your frameworks?
Yeah. For me, in writing the book and really thinking about curiosity from a framework, especially in this context of organizational leadership, for me, it's about having the intention. The curiosity is about having the intention to look beyond your current situation and limitations. That to me, what it's about is to look beyond the status quo, look beyond to where we are right now, what we're doing right now, and have that curious mind of saying, okay, what's possible? What can we tweak? What can we change? Can we improve things? That's why I look at it.
I love that. Okay, so let's go on that vein for a moment. So I think like our brains are physiologically wired to keep us in the status quo, right? And to keep us comfortable with our level of growth. So, like, what are the indicators that let you know that a leader is not expanding beyond that, like you mentioned, or like that they're kind of getting comfortable or stuck or stagnated? Like how do we know? Like, because I think the listeners will appreciate this as well. Like, how do we know if we need to be looking beyond the the status quo and current frame, like you mentioned?
Yeah, well, I think the answer is we all do, right? We all need to. I'm glad you said that because I talk about a lot that fear, comfort, and habits are what keeps us stuck where we are, and they exist for a very natural reason in evolution, psychology, etc. But they are the enemy of innovation, growth, and change. So when we want to step out of that, again, some people like myself are very natural change agents to where I don't have to create these mechanisms to do that. I naturally walk into an organization or walk into a room like, how do we make this better? Like if I'm going to the subway, I analyze what door I can get onto on a train to drop me off right by the escalator of the next stop. Like that is just the way my brain works. If it doesn't work that way, if you're not constantly analyzing things and questioning things from a curiosity standpoint. Again, it's not about judgmental or finding fault in people. It's I look at it as you know, I believe that we should all be doing agile operations, just like we do agile development and software, is constantly tweaking and changing things while keeping the train on the tracks. And so you gotta know that the fear, comfort, and habits are natural and they exist for a reason. But if you're stuck in those, which everyone is at some point, even I do it sometimes, like you have to create these mechanisms that allow you to break free from that.
I love that. So, really, this is going to seem totally left field, but have you ever been to Japan?
I have not.
Okay. Well, just bringing up the subway, I have never been in a country where the operations of entering and exiting the subway is like more efficient. So like your little operations brain, if Japan is on your bucket list, like you're going to be like, "My gosh, like this is a nation of organizational operational oriented people."
And I'm actually just reading a book right now. I'm reading the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And part of that, they talk about the Japanese philosophy of keizan, which is the constant improvement. That's where, Japanese develop their own style of manufacturing around that. But in this book, it actually talks about keizan from a personal development standpoint, that you constantly have to be working to improve yourself and your mindset and everything. And that's what we should all be doing both as individuals and as leaders in our organizations.
I love it. Okay, so you worked in organizations for quite some time. Talk to me about the transition of doing your own thing. Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little piece during the association world that kind of spurred what I do now. So my second role was for a tech trade association that was a startup that worked with startups. So I had this kind of double immersion to the startup world. I worked for one where I was the fourth employee hired, and so I really got to build operations from scratch. Like nothing existed. The accountants and lawyers had done a few things here and there, but I really started again the fourth employee hired. We grew the organization to operating in 2 continents. I mean, at one point we had 40, 50 employees plus consultants. And so I really got to really be hands on and not just manage systems that already exist, but building them. And so when I switched to consulting, well, 7.5 years ago now, I quickly got some opportunities from some former bosses that either needed this work done or knew someone who did of launching operations. And then I would stay on as a fractional COO. Some were for profit, some were nonprofit. But as it went on a while, I was kind of back to doing both junior and senior level work, which I did not want to be doing. I did not want to be the bookkeeper, the HR administrator, and the COO. But the size organizations I was working for, that's kind of where it fell. And quite frankly, I wanted to help more organizations. And as a fractional COO, my time became tapped. So that's when I really began to think about, all right, what is that secret sauce I bring to these organizations? And how can I do this differently so I can help more organizations grow? Which is when I came up with the trust the process concept as well as the operational breakthrough method.
That's fantastic. So, are you primarily talk to me about your business model with with those two methods? Are you working primarily as an organizational consultant? What industry or industries do you typically go into? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my company is Lateral Solutions, and we pretty industry agnostic. My biggest client, 2 buckets of clientels in the last 7 years has been a mixture of nonprofits and tech startups, which to most people you couldn't think of two things further from each other. But when it comes to operations and launching these systems and creating efficient, effective operations with limited resources, stretching the budget, still growing a team, they really, really operate the exact same way for most intents and purposes, especially since I'm not a tax accountant, so I don't handle the taxes. And so what we do, our key product is going into organizations to really help them grow and grow with clarity. And we do that by going through 3 steps. We help them diagnose what's wrong in the organization, which is the problem that the step that most people miss. Most people, when they're doing strategic planning or growth planning, it's the same people sitting around the same table saying, where do we want to be in 5 years? They don't do a real diagnosis or self assessment of where you are right now and where those gaps or holes that exist. So that's the first step we do. We do a deep dive into your organization. We're looking at decision making processes, your operational strength and maturity, your efficiency, your culture, to find those gaps and holes. And then we create a growth plan for you. It's going to be a 90-day sprint on tactical items, and then a 12-month plan that kind of really tackles the more strategic matters. And then we stay with you to help you execute on that. One thing I have learned, when I was a W-2 employee, being the VP of operations, COO, and building these and managing these systems, it was much more about the tactical components of these systems. As I moved into consultant role, I've come to really understand and see that operations efficiency effectiveness does not exist on an island. And the biggest pieces that I see that hinder operational excellence coming about is the mindset of the leaders or the leader, the CEO, the founder, and the culture of the organization. Because if you really want to improve and grow your organization and have operational excellence, you got to have a growth minded CEO. You have to have a CEO founder who's willing to let go of control, not micromanage. And you have to create a culture, again, go back to that concept of keizan, where you're constantly improving things. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you create an environment that allows your staff to be a part of the change in leadership of the organization by pointing out problems, bringing solutions in real time, and working together to change the organization.
I love that. So, as a consultant, are you primarily working with current staff, or like, do you ever like place people? You're like, you really need someone that is a dedicated operations manager or director or whatever. How does that typically work?
Yes, it really depends on the client. Typically it's me right now working with the clients. typically working with the CEO or founder, executive director, the top person in the organization. If the need arises for me to work one on one with different team members to help them, navigate the changes that we're doing, I'll do that. But I also do have a pool of fractional COO and operations managers who work with me. So I will, if there's someone else, if an organization needs a specialty that isn't really my cup of tea, I'll bring them into that. Same if an organization gets to a point where we're like, yeah, like you really need to hire someone full time. We can help with that recruitment process, either from an advisory standpoint or actually executing on the recruitment as well. We coming from an operational background where we're jack of all trades, we really come into an engagement saying we're here to help you find the problems and solve the problems. Whereas a lot of consultants who go through, some kind of assessment process of an organization, their whole goal is to find the hole that they fit, the hole that they fill. So they want to find that there's a deficiency in software. They want to find that you want to hire someone new so they can recruit or develop software. We come in agnostically to where we are able to step into these roles and be a partner with you to find, plan, and then execute on the things that are going to help you propel your organization.
I love that. I love that. It's a powerful model. That's how my agency is set up as well. Is it's like we're not just like a vendor of one thing. It's like, what are your goals, and like understanding like what are all the tools in the tool belt that are possible to reach those goals, and like what is the thing that makes sense to deploy first, and then we can go from there. So I love this so much. Okay, so I'm curious about what is the aspect of your work that just like you love it, like it makes you salivate, like you're just like, I love this piece so much.
Can do a quick pause, take a drink real.
Yeah, no worries. I'll do the same.
Kind of fighting, started getting a little bit of cold and just trying to keep my throat lubricated.
No, we
Ward
gotta, you
off
gotta, you gotta do that before you travel.
yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. So, for me, like I'd say the thing I love the most are the aha moments. Right? When you're trying to get through to someone, trying to get a founder or a CEO to see something a certain way, they've been stuck in their way, and all of a sudden I say the right thing, I bring the right solution to where they can see it tangibly, and you just see the lights go off. Like I love when a CEO or founder is like, "I love the way your brain thinks. I never would have looked at it that way, but you're totally right." That's really what gets me excited, because my purpose, if you want to define that, is like my goal is to use my strengths, abilities, and experience to help other leaders and organizations grow. And I think this is, what I've put forward for my company, what we're doing right now. It really allows me to work with leaders on a variety of different levels. Again, from that leadership part, the operation, as well as the culture, and really seeing how that all meshes together, and how those overlap is where the real magic happens. I love seeing that take place.
I love it. You know what's so interesting is like I don't ask that question on every podcast, but every time I have asked it, it's always the same. Like I shouldn't say always, but it is like most of the time the same answer of it is seeing the light bulb go off, but the context is never the same. Whether it's like an operations person like you, or I was talking about this with someone who he's an architect that focuses on sacred geometry. Like that was his thing of like the aha moment where like something clicks or makes sense for something. For me, that's the same. Like I love being a sharer of ideas and helping people think differently. And when people have that like aha moment, like that's the driver for me. And so super interesting. I love that you said that, because I was like, oh man, like that's something, there's something so gratifying that to the human soul, right? To help another human soul realize something that is going to be a lever mover for them.
And with the work I do, and with the working with leaders, and the culture piece too, is, I'm always hoping that the work I'm doing with the leaders, with the organization, is also going to trickle down to the staff, right? I'm helping these leaders lead in a way, run the organization in a way, operate in a way that's going to empower their employees, make their employees more engaged, have their employees feel like they're part of a purpose just by working at this company or this organization, and really feel more fulfilled in their roles as well. So like I want the impact to be felt throughout the entire organization, and not just with the leader.
Love it so much. Okay, so I've got a question. I've got an operational question for you. You want to geek out with me for just a
Let's
moment?
do it.
All right, so maybe you can unlock something for me here. So one of the issues that I've always had is the transition from SOPs to systems. Like in my organization, like historically, we've been really good at creating SOPs. Like how do you pull a customer list, launch a campaign, set up a campaign, identify an ICP, the onboarding process, all those things. But what's always been a struggle for me that I haven't been able to unlock like in my mind is like how do you turn SOPs into a system? How does it become where like one SOP smoothly ties into the next one, and especially like if there's multiple players involved, and sometimes things can be done simultaneously, whereas like others are dependency tasks on someone else. Like, how do SOPs go to a system? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Again, and that's something that I talk about all the time, right? Is looking at the way organizations operate today versus, 70 years ago when majority of Americans were working on a factory line, right? Where you had the same job, you did all day long, and you did that job regardless of what happened around you. That is not the nature of how we work today. We are collaborative. Accounting has a view in the way marketing works. Marketing has a view in the way accounting works, and vice versa. So looking at SOPs from a systemic way is the best way to do it, right? Because so few of our roles and responsibilities and processes in organization are isolated. And so you want to take that holistic look and combine those overlaps, right? That's the way to look at it is to get this done, this requires three different departments. And so maybe there's a part of this SOP that just sits with one organization, one department. But I think the key thing is to show also like, yes, this is my SOP I follow day in and day out. And that's my Bible, if you will. But I'm also seeing the SOP that connects all the other dots. I think that's what people miss, right? It is showing people the bigger picture. Yes, this is my SOP. This is what I do, but here's why, and here's how it affects other people, and allow those people to see that when I do invoicing, it affects sales, and allow those two people. And when you connect those two people by an SOP that shows them, hey, when there's a problem, there's someone else here that I can talk to, and let's solve this together, right? So framing out your SOPs, yes, individually for each person, but having that SOP touch all the different departments, all the different people who touch it at any given time gives you that bigger picture and that framework of how it all comes together.
I like that. No, that's really good. Okay, you also hear this term. You hear systems and processes, right? What's the difference between those two in your mind? Is there a difference? Is it just
Yeah,
semantics?
I think it's semantics, right? I think process is the steps you take. The system, I think, is kind of what we're just talking about, like the bigger picture, like what how it all comes together. You're taking multiple processes together, and that's a system. But I think for the most part, it's just semantics to depending on what degree you're talking about of just what we do on a day-to-day basis to get the job done.
I love that. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the book. You mentioned it earlier, but like, tell me about this book. What was the genesis for writing it? What's it about? Like, give me the details.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the whole curious leader aspect. I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, I was in a transition, so I did what most people do: dust off my digital Rolodex of LinkedIn and start reaching out to old colleagues and that sort of thing to network. And a person from undergrad recommended I talk to a colleague of theirs. They worked in a university setting, and he was academic, and his specialty was helping people to define their superpower. And so after some interviews and questionnaires, he came back with curiosity as mine. I'm like, all right, great. Like I've done a lot of cool things. I got a law degree, I have an MBA, like I have all these things. Doing strength finders, there's decision maker, activator, all of these things. I'm like, all right, curiosity is cool, I guess. I get it. But it didn't really stick with me at the moment. Then fast forward, I was working with a branding company, and part of what they did was do a deep dive one-on-one with you to just learn your background as well, and what makes you tick, and what you've done throughout your career. So a second person with a completely different angle said, John, like curiosity is your superpower. I'm like, funny you say that. And so once that person said it, I really began to think about my life and my career and how curiosity has been there every step of the way. And once that really came about, I mean, I really outlined this book, in a couple of hours, and it wrote itself very, very quickly because I tended to have worked in the past as just like, this is what I do. Like, I don't have a framework. I don't have a system. I just I come in, I organize things, I see problems, I solve them, I fix things, I make them more efficient. And so I had to, unravel all that and kind of layer that out into some different ways. And when I came to think about how curiosity from a leadership standpoint is really affects, how we think, what our leadership mindset is, how we operate, and then how we connect the culture piece, the book started really writing itself. And I had all kinds of experiences and case studies I could throw in there. And it really was an enjoyable experience.
It's so fun. Is it self-published?
It is. It is.
Nice. I love that. I self-published a book a couple of years ago, and it was a fun experience. I think that every human has at least one book in them, and I highly recommend everyone take the opportunity to write a book. I think people kind of feel like it's like this massive thing, and it's not. After writing a book, I mean, it's not simple. I mean, but it's not too hard either. Like, I mean, it's, and especially like if you're not trying to like have it be like through a major publisher, or you're self-publishing. Like, it can be a powerful tool to document your life, and so I love that you did a book.
Yeah, the Curious Leader, I mean, it did, initially when I published, as kind of reached that Amazon number one bestseller with the big initial push, but like it really has been resonating. I'm getting speaking opportunities because our CEO read your book. We have a leadership conference coming in. We were thought about buying your book from you in bulk, but then we saw you speak and that you do workshops, and so like it really is opening some doors for me to really spread the word about how curiosity, not just as leadership, but in our lives, and how we can think differently and improve ourselves and keep moving forward, challenge the status quo in our own lives. But it's starting to resonate, and it is really exciting when I have a family member who's also a business coach, and he gives it to a lot of his clients that he think it would help. And he gave it to a client that leads actually a group of coaches and has his own program, pretty well known organization. And he's like, I actually been trying to think about how to bring curiosity to our organization in a more meaningful way. And here you come sending me this book, and they literally just sent me a screenshot of that text today. And so like it's really is resonating, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in 2026 as I continue to grow both the Curious Leader brand as well as the Trust the Process brand.
Yeah, I love that. Well, since I mean you brought it up, like let's talk about next year. Like what's on the docket for you? What is on your mind in terms of what you want to push into or grow or
Yeah, so the operational breakthrough process I mentioned before, method I mentioned before, that again, that's kind of been a gradual process of what I've been implementing with my COO clients, and now bringing that out as a kind of a standalone product, and wanting to really get that out there more, help more organizations that way, and really drive some growth and change through that. And then the other part of that is the speaking, the workshops. I love getting in front of people, whether it's keynote talk, at a big conference with 200 to 300 people, or sitting around a boardroom and helping these leaders think differently about their organization, about their company. And it's really, really exciting when I can, like, both ways, right? I love the applause, the energy of the keynote, but then also I'm more intimate with the boardroom style, to where we can exchange ideas more real time, and see them, solving problems real time in the workshops I do that are very interactive with exercises and lessons, that sort of thing. And I'm very, very excited for 2026.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so and I have to ask because everyone's talking about it, like the impact of AI. Like how is AI impacting how organizations view operations? How are you implementing AI into like the work that you do? I'd be very curious to get your spin on AI from the lens of Jon.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say that, like, I know, when these new technologies come out, the first thing is fear, like Stetson, right? Like, oh, AI is going to take over our jobs, this and that. And yes, I mean, IBM and some of these big companies are developing very, very specific programmed AI that are having them get rid of some middle management, that sort of thing. But the average person, the average small business, the average organization does not have the capabilities to use AI in that way. I fight with ChatGPT every single day. Like, I don't I like when people are like afraid AI is going to take over the world. I'm like, have you used ChatGPT? Like, it said, like, I can apply for the speaking application is still open. The event happened last summer. Like how am I applying to a speaking event that happened last summer, right? Like there are so many things that it gets wrong you have to pay attention to. Like, it is a great, great tool. And that's what people need to focus on. Like, it's a great tool for me. Invest in stocks, but I'm not an overly sophisticated investor. So like I will upload SEC documents that are 100 pages and say, analyze this for me. What does this mean for my stocks? And then my business, I use it for, a feedback loop, put in an idea, and tell it like, look, I want you to be the harshest critic. I don't want you to be the cheerleader. I want you to be, um, you know, the mentor that's just ruthless in how you view this idea, and use it as a sounding board, use it as drafting emails and lengthy documents, at least as the starting point. You should never ever just take what it says and run with it. As I mentioned, like there are a lot of problems and it gets a lot of things wrong, a lot of nuance wrong, but utilize it for just cutting down on administration. Obviously, for my meetings I always have fireflies up. 8% of the time, I never look at them, right? Like, they exist in the cloud, but it's that 2% when I need to go back and look at something, me and a client have a disagreement on something about what we discussed, like, it's always there. When I'm having a talk, about a potential speaking opportunity, I don't want to be there jotting down notes, so it's there to take that, summarize it for me. I can go back when I'm doing my proposal, say, "Remind me again what deliverables are looking for, or what topics are looking for," so I can just throw those directly into a proposal, and it really just cuts down the administration, and that's what people really need to be using AI for, is as a tool to help them be more productive.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jon, seriously, it's been so fun having you on the podcast today. I love how clear you are in your communication and how certain you are about your curiosity, right? And which is kind of like an oxymoron, right? Because like curiosity is like probably exploring the uncertain. But I think it's amazing how like you've followed the breadcrumbs of opportunity in your life, but also like listened to like repeated patterns, like the fact that curiosity was brought up to you twice, and you leaned into it, and like you wrote this book, and now like opportunities are coming to you that it sounds based on your reaction like you didn't necessarily foresee the immediate and impact that it would have. So thank you so much for coming, and it's been a joy having you on the show today.
Thank you for having me once again.
So for people that want to find your book, get in touch with you, find your organization, have a call, like how do people get in touch?
Yeah. So first of all, like I'm always happy to do a free consult for anyone who's needs some help, as a leader, discovering curiosity, or as an organization, wanting to work on your operations and finding those gaps and holes and filling them. So my consulting website is my company again is Lateral Solutions, but the URL is think-lateral.com. My personal brand site is jonbassford.com. And I started a new thing for a podcast where I'm giving away a certain number of free books every single month. So even when you might hear this podcast a month after it was released, I'm earmarking a certain amount of free books every single month. So if you go to jonbassford.com/free book, you can put your information in and get a free book if you're within that limit. And I'm really excited about that to get the book out there and share that with more people.
Love that. So generous. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you take advantage of that. I know I'm gonna be in there. I want one of those monthly copies. That's fantastic. So guys, I'm gonna put the links in the episode notes below so that you can link out to those directly. But again, Jon, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for doing the work that you do in the world. It's really really important.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for being a wonderful host. I enjoyed the conversation.
Good, good. Me too. All right, guys, wherever you're at, listening, your car, your kitchen, or Costco, I really appreciate you taking the time to spend a moment with us. We know that your time is valuable. So thank you so much for taking some time with the Marketing Matrix today.